Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. We are about an hour behind our usual schedule, but we are here for another edition of the Overtime Sports Show, episode 33, coming to you live on a fine Tuesday evening. My name is Greg Gross. My co-host is Dan O'Brien. Dan, what's up, man? How are you?
Doing awesome. Just had a little visits with some family, a little dinner, so just pushed it back an hour. But, we're not going anywhere like we always say. So episode 33. Double triples, that's how we do it.
That's right. We're always here to bring the sports once a week.
We are
coming alive to people on our normal week spot, and I want to wish you a happy belated birthday yesterday.
I appreciate it.
It was a good day. Good celebration.
Great day. Yeah, great day. I worked a half a day, had a great lunch with my uncle, and then went to a really good dinner in St. Augustine, a place called River and Fort. They have a nice rooftop bar overlooking the fort. I think I sent you a picture, and made some good drinks and had some really good food. But it was a great birthday. It was a lot of fun.
Good stuff, man. Good stuff. Glad.
The only negative, it was on a weekday. I mean, Monday, if it was on like a Saturday or a Friday. But hey, It is what it is.
You celebrate this weekend, right?
Oh, of course. I celebrated last weekend too, so it's a fun one.
Yeah, you got to do it. You got to do like the kids do. They celebrate the entire month, I think, nowadays.
Hey, man, I can make it happen. I'm not worried about it.
It's a birth month, but
yeah, I'm not worried about it.
Yeah, good stuff. So we're gonna do like we do every single show and just kick things off with our hat reveal, sponsored by Drop Hat. They do a fantastic job. If you're into hats, they'll deliver custom hats tailored to you every single month right to your door. So make sure you check them out and support them because they're supporting us, and we appreciate it. Floor is yours, man.
Shout out to our friend of the show, Chris Dolan. He actually got a hat from them. I sent you the picture. It was a very cool, unique Florida Marlins hat. It was like very unique. So go Drop Hat. He was very happy with the hat, and they do a good job. But without further ado, we've kind of been having fun with this last couple of weeks. You've been guessing. I've been giving you some clues. So this is the second hat of the second shipment they sent me, and they sent me all four major sports again. Last week did the Edmonton Oilers. So left is MLB, NBA, and NFL. One clue I'll give you is this is a current team, but it's a throwback team, and it's relevant.
So I'm pretty sure I'm not going football, because that's probably not real relevant. So my choices are basketball or baseball. You said kind of relevant, so I'm going to go baseball.
Yeah, it's baseball.
Okay. And tell me again, what was the hint? It's a current team, but
so it's a current team, but it's like retro colors, like old school colors.
Retro colors. So I think a couple weeks ago I guessed.
And if you want another hint, I've actually never mind. That'll give it away. I'll tell you when I put the hat on. Never mind.
Give me one clue. I'm going to ask American League or National?
American.
Okay. Throwback colors. Oh, boy, this is interesting. I don't know if they've changed their colors. You said kind of relevant. The only thing that comes to mind, this would be hopefully a logical guess, is we all know Oakland's moving soon, so part of me wants to guess the A's. No, I didn't think they changed their colors. I feel like they've always been green and yellow. All right, one more. Oh boy, who's changed their colors? This is tough. I'm kind of drawing a blank. Let me just go with. It can't be the Rays, can it?
No.
Okay. All right. I don't know.
Same division. You want to give one more chance? It's in the division. Take a Drop Hat.
Gotta be the Blue Jays.
There you go.
Okay. I knew it wasn't the Sox. I knew it wasn't your boys. I don't think the O's have changed their colors. So process of elimination. Okay. Nice. Look at that. So
if you look right here, it says Jays on the side.
Yeah.
Another company, they wore this back when Roy Halladay was their pitcher. I don't know if you remember they had that gray with the black.
Yeah, I was going way back and thinking, but that's not too far back.
So it's weird because what they did,
early 2000s maybe.
Yeah, their logo right now is what they had back in the day. Then they went to this, and then now their logo now is like I said back in the day. So they had this with Roy Halladay and company Mitchell and Ness. I've had a couple of their hats already, and really cool hat. And what I was going to tell you is, Toronto. I believe Drop Hat. They're out of Toronto, so they're, another really good hat they sent me. But the one that sticks with me on this one is the Roy Halladay. Remember him, Roy Doc Halladay, really good pitcher. Yeah. This is when he was big wearing these colors.
Yeah. I like it.
So, yeah.
I like the color scheme. I like the blue, the gray, even a little white. It's kind of subtle. I think it's pretty smooth.
Yeah, it's nice. I mean, the one now, and what I was going to say is I wore the other hat a couple episodes ago. I don't know if you remember where that Blue Jays hat. It was like with the baby blue bill, and then it had so they changed it around a little bit, but I like this one with the J and then the Blue Jay coming out of it.
I like it too, but with that said, I mean, I know that their primary logo right now is the old school, if you will, logo. It's got a little touch of red in it. I'm not a fan of teams constantly changing logos, jersey designs. We've talked about it before. You know, it's all about money and marketing and whatnot. But I mean, some things I think should be sacred. You know, just the teams that have been around for a long time. Some of them are still out there, like in hockey, like Montreal Canadiens comes to mind, maybe the Maple Leafs, like some of those teams with storied traditions. I mean, even I looked at like the Bruins in hockey this year. They seem to have like a little bit of a design change this year, and
they changed their jersey. They changed their jersey. I don't know if you remember. Like, remember last year they used to have the orange on the shoulders, and now they took it away. So I noticed they changed their jersey. But yeah, I'm the same way with you. I mean, look at the Yankees. Yankees don't really change their stuff. I mean, they're
that's true. You guys,
the pinstripes.
They're one of the few that have kept it going. But.
Yep. So another really cool hat from them. Like I said, the company Mitchell and Ness. You know, they made some good stuff. So it's nice, comfortable hat. I like it.
It is good stuff. Good stuff. Drop hat. We appreciate you guys. I'm part of me is inclined to start off and jump into baseball, but I want to go back to that later. There's plenty of baseball, but there's too many other things I think to talk about right now with hockey and basketball kind of in full swing, really starting the conference finals in both leagues. So I want to start with just a little bit of hockey. And we talked about pulling up our bracket because we're more than halfway through now. So I'm going to try to share my screen and pull it up here. Let me know when you can see it. Oops.
Just gotta, let me know you want me to add it. If you want me to add it, I can.
Yeah, I'm going to present. Oops. Yeah, go ahead and add it. You should see it.
There it is.
Awesome. So let me scroll down a little bit and pull it up because I guess last time since we did our show a week ago, I think all the series except for maybe the
Edmonton finished last night.
They did, but I think Dallas was still going on. I want to say the Rangers were still going on. So the only
series was actually because the Bruins were going on too because the Panthers won on Saturday, right? Yeah.
Maybe they were. So obviously we know what the matchups are now. This is my bracket up on the screen now, and I got the West right, which I normally know the East a little bit better than the West just because of the teams I follow are in the East. But I happen to get Dallas and the Oilers. Dallas is obviously my cup pick. I had them going all the way. In my opinion, I don't know how you feel about this, Dan, but I really thought the Vegas series was going to be really, really tough. I picked it in 6. It ended up going 7. I also thought the Colorado series was going to be really tough, and it was. That one went 7 games. Went to double overtime, if I'm not mistaken. I stayed up watching it, I think, this past weekend. A heck of a game. And the Edmonton Canucks series obviously went 7. Like you said, it ended last night. I'm curious what you thought about that game because I know you've been a big Oilers fan. You're repping the hat, especially what Drop Hat gave you. But I'll be honest, watching that game, I know the Oilers were up 3-0 at one point. They were kind of out shooting the Canucks quite a bit, but I wasn't impressed with how either team was playing, to be honest with you. And I could be completely wrong, but from the West side of things, I just have a feeling that Dallas steamrolls Edmonton. I really do. I'm kind of curious your thoughts if you see it being as lopsided. Maybe this is me just being biased, but how do you see that?
You know, it's crazy because Vancouver is arguably one of their best players. Boycer, he was out last night because of the blood clot. Yeah. And, you know, obviously, I think it's going to be a good series. I think that the Oilers, we've talked about them all year long. I watched them live. I mean, they're stacked. The only negative thing about them is their goalie. So I think that this going 7 games is going to be good for the Oilers. And obviously, I'm biased myself. It's because I'm a big Oiler guy. Yeah. I think it's going to be a hell of a series. I think this one goes 6 or 7 also. And I just think that Dallas kind of, you know, steamrolled Avalanche, where they went in 6, right?
Yeah.
4-2. I think the experience and just Edmonton playing together as a whole. I mean, Zach Hyman, Draisaitl. I mean, you can name. I've named all the guys before. I think they're going to win. I just think that the 7 games is really going to bode well for them because they're clicked.
Yeah.
They were down a lot in the games and they came back, and I mean they had an easy chance to lose that series. Edmonton did. So
Yeah.
I think it's going to be a great series. I think obviously a little bias for me, a little bias for you. I think Edmonton should be able to pull it out just with all their talent.
Yeah. I want to correct myself. I think I said the Dallas beat the Avs in 7, but you're right. It was 6. It was in Colorado, and I remember watching. I was real nervous that if Colorado won, that it was going back to Dallas, and they obviously still had a chance, but Colorado certainly would have had some momentum. So
So
I'm glad they wrapped it up. But
talking about those 2 teams, I got 2 really cool stats that I saw on Facebook. So I don't know if you saw this one, but Dallas, no team in the expansion era of the NHL had ever started the playoffs by beating the last 2 Stanley Cup winners, and that's Dallas. Obviously Vegas, and then obviously Colorado. I thought that was pretty cool stat, wasn't it?
Yeah, that is really cool.
And then Oilers' Evan Bouchard, 20 points are the most in NHL history by a defenseman through the first 2 rounds of a single postseason.
Wow.
So I thought that was pretty cool. I mean, that just adds to the stackness of the Oilers and their offense. I mean, they're getting records from their defensemen. And, I just thought those are two cool stats that I saw on Facebook about NHL.
Yeah, I'm glad you brought that up because to me that was a bit of an edge that I gave Dallas, but not having known about Bouchard and really the hot start he was after. Because when I look at Dallas, I mean, we're talking about how they're stacked all around, and I think Ottinger's pretty damn good in goal. But
that's the edge.
Stacked. They got guys like Heiskanen, Lundqvist, Lundell. I mean, they got a lot of great defenders, but if Bouchard is tearing it up, and I didn't know he was 20 points already, that is pretty impressive from a defenseman.
Yeah.
It might even level the playing field a little bit. So
I think if there's an edge, I think Dallas definitely has the edge in obviously goaltending.
Yeah.
I mean, that's one thing I'd give it to him because the goalie Oilers, they've been doing Skinner and I forgot the other guy's name, but they've been kind of rotating, a couple games here, a couple games there.
Yeah.
But I thought those are 2 cool stats. I mean, for the Dallas, I mean, to beat, you don't really put that in perspective, but the last 2 Stanley Cup winners, they beat them. I mean, that's a pretty cool stat, and no team's ever done that before.
It is. And that, I mean, obviously it depends on how they finished in the season and not necessarily, who was a previous cup winner.
Yeah, exactly.
We've talked about this before, and I don't like this. This meant something in the Rangers-Canes series. And obviously the Canes lost to the Rangers. They were down 3-0. They came back a little bit and at least made it an interesting series, losing in 6. But I felt like they should not have played the Rangers in the second round because they had the second best record in the conference, in the league, really, but in the conference.
Yep.
And I hate this idea. And we've talked about it before, but I hate that they don't reseed anymore. I just hate these conference-based or division-based matchups. I think it makes it boring, and I think it's unfair to certain teams. Like the Canes should not have met the Rangers until this round, the conference championship, because
exactly
1 and 2. And I just think it's unfair. I just hate that concept. But it is what it is. I don't think they're changing it back anytime soon. But I think the Canes got a little bit shafted. But wanted to just talk briefly about that series. Curious what you thought. It looked like the Rangers were world beaters. They'd won their first 7 games in a row, and I was just wanting to choke at how good they were playing. But they kind of came back to earth a little bit. They lost 2 games, and they were down a couple goals, I think.
Yeah, 3-1 in the third.
Yeah, 3-1, exactly. And then people are saying it was kind of an epic choke job by the Canes, which maybe it was. But, I mean, the Rangers are the best team in the league.
Yeah.
So, I mean, you can't really take anything away from them. But I'm just kind of curious what you think about that series and where you think the Rangers go, against Florida, if they get by them, and if they do, what they do in the finals. But I'm not really too surprised, I guess, about the result. I was a little surprised that the Rangers went up 3-0, but they proved to be the better team. In my opinion, they rely too heavily on the power play, which, interestingly enough, I think the Panthers are one of the more frequently penalized teams in the league. So they're going to have to stay out of the box if they want to, keep this series close. But I'm curious what you thought about the Rangers-Canes.
Yeah, I mean, we talked about it. I thought that was going to be the best series of the second round.
Yeah.
I thought I was going to at least go 7 games, and going up 3-0. I knew that the Hurricanes were going to come back with a vengeance, but I mean, they won 2 in a row, and being up 3-1. I mean, we touched on this last episode about relying on goalies, and we talked about Frederik Andersen. I mean, he's been somewhat of a journeyman, and yeah, they did a choke job. I mean, up 3-1 in the third period, and you give up a natural hat trick to Chris Kreider, and some of those goals were easy. I mean, that game-winning goal technically was a centering pass and just popped it right in. I mean, you got to think that's a better goal. You got to be a better goalie that could stop that. But speaking on those series, I mean, yeah, the Rangers, as you touched on it, they were the President's Cup winners. I mean, they really play good on the power play. They got some scrappers. Jacob Trubia. They got Truba. They got Mika Zibanejad, and they got Vincent Trocheck. I mean, those guys scrappers. So obviously, friend of the show, Chris Dolan, been on here twice, director of sales. I really think the Panthers. That might go 7 as well. I think the Panthers should be able to pull it out. It's really going to depend on Bob, how Bob does. And if Bob can keep standing on his head, making the saves that he made against Boston and making the saves he made against Tampa, I think the Panthers should make it happen because they're a deep team. I mean, like I said, we've touched on them. Chris has touched on them. You've touched on them. They're a solid team. What are your thoughts on that series?
No, I mean, I think you nailed it. To me, it comes down to goaltending too, because Bobrovsky is good. We got to see if he can play as good as Shesterkin, because Shesterkin has played pretty good these playoffs as well. In my opinion, and I've heard others share this as well, is that the Rangers really haven't played a great goalie so far. And in my opinion, this playoff so far, I mean, they got pretty easy against their matchup with the Caps. And then, even this past series, it depends on who you talk to, but my personal opinion, I think we talked about this last show and we went down like memory lane with the Canes. And it's like, their last good goalie was probably like Cam Ward. I'm just not a very big believer in Frederik Andersen. They even put in the other guy, I think Pachekov, for a game or something like that. And that probably tells you all you need to know. So I think you hit the nail on the head. I think it's going to come down to Bobrovsky and goaltending and seeing if he can match and live up to the same standard as Shesterkin. And if he does, I think the Panthers have a real shot. I think if they stay out of the box, stay disciplined, I think they're going to pose a real problem for the Rangers, who have a big problem scoring 5-on-5. They rely very heavily on the power play, and Kreider, he's one of the best at standing in front of the net and getting those deflections and rebounds. He's great at it. Credit to him, but there's one way to stop him, and that's just simply by staying out of the box. So those are my 2 keys: goaltending and special teams.
Yeah, the crazy stat about Igor, I'm sure you know about this, but up until Game 4, he had a streak of I think 10 or 11 straight postseason games without letting up 2 or more goals.
Yeah, I saw that.
So that just speaks to itself. If you can get good goaltending, I mean, we talked about it last show. I mean, you can ride a goaltender, and they rode him. I mean, they rode him 7 straight games in the first, the first 2 rounds, and like I said, not letting up 2 or more goals in the postseason. That's pretty impressive. But yeah, if the Panthers can stay out of the penalty box, if they can keep the tenacity up, if Tkachuk can do what Tkachuk does and, get in the head like he did with Boston, what he did to Pasternak when they had that big fight. What was that, Game 5?
Yeah.
If they could bring the intensity level, stay out of the box, and like I said, Bob, I mean, I don't repeat myself, but Bob does Bob things. I think there's a good chance 6 or 7 games. I mean, very biased with the Cats, obviously, but I think it should be a good series.
Yeah, I think so too. Let me scroll down on the bracket here for a moment. Actually, I want to go back and just look at the standings here for a moment. It looks
let's see where we're at.
I'm in 5th place. First place right now, Big Mike is.
Oh, that's my dad.
Papa Mike. Yeah. Look at him. I mean, his cup pick is still alive. He's got 376 points still possible. I mean, that's far and away above most others, including yours truly. But he's leading the charge at 176. Let's look at his bracket for a minute. See who he picked. He's got he's got 2 still alive. I mean, he had Dallas like me, but he had Florida winning the whole thing. I unfortunately had the Canes, but I mean, look at his Final Four. He nailed it.
Wow.
I mean, he got all correct. I mean,
that's awesome.
Kudos to him.
He knows what he's doing. He watches us live every single show, so maybe he's got some insider.
Yeah, I'm looking at the only thing he got wrong so far was he had the Leafs beating Boston in 7.
Yeah, everything else is green, right?
Pretty close to that. He had all the other matchups correct. I guess not having a perfect bracket is only because he just didn't get some of the first round games correct, like the series length. But other than that, I mean, he's almost as good as you really could be. So congrats and kudos to Papa Mike so far.
I think mine's up there too. Check out mine real quick. I think
you are 3rd place behind our buddy Dolan. Let me see yours. Your cup, both your cup finalists are still alive, so that means that's big. You just
Dallas
miss was Dallas, but other than that, a good looking bracket.
Nice. Yeah, Chris has got Panthers versus the Predators. So
that hurt him when he had the Preds, but I mean, as long as your cup winner is still alive, which 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 of us so far are still there. Boston, we know, got knocked out. This is our buddy Tony, who's got Dallas like me, but I think I've gotten some others right, so he's in trouble. I think even if Dallas won, I'd probably still have him. But everybody else, I think, was a bunch of our friends, localists, who probably went with their heart and were picking the Bolts. But those of us who didn't pick the Bolts, we're still alive, so it's pretty interesting. It's been good so far.
Yeah, it's been awesome. Very good.
Yeah. Good stuff. You want to switch over to some basketball real quick?
Yeah.
I got, I guess, just a few thoughts, but I want your thoughts, really. So I kind of wanted to start with the Knicks series. That's really the one that I was paying closest attention to. I never really had a big favorite basketball team, but being from New York, I guess I could hitch my wagon to the Knicks a little bit. So part of me was rooting for them a little bit, but I was damn nervous when they just got trounced. I think in Game 4, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, it was a Sunday. I think last Sunday before we did our last show. Yeah,
and I saw it get tied, and they had a chance going back to the Garden on their home court. The world's most famous arena, where it looked like they had a chance to really move and advance to the next round, which I thought was going to be their biggest test against the Celtics. But they got sort of trounced again, in my opinion. I mean, it was like 130 to 110 or something like that, a 20-point spread. It just looked like a similar thrashing to that earlier game in the series. And, I feel for Knick fan who just, they're just so desperate for good basketball, and they don't get it very often. I mean, it's been years since Knicks really made a deep run, and I thought they were at least going to make the conference finals, but they didn't even get there. I mean, to get bounced in the second round after the regular season that they had, to me, it's got to be viewed as a disappointment. But I kind of want your thought on this in a moment. I was hanging out with a friend of the show, Adam Young, a bit. We were talking, and he brought up an interesting point. I didn't really know this. We talked about on the show, and I picked the Celtics to win, the conference, the league, and really to be the champ at the beginning of the season. And we know that they were head and shoulders above just about everybody, but especially the Eastern Conference. What I didn't realize is that second place through basically, 7th, 8th place, that cutoff line was only separated by 4 games, 4 wins. Yep. I mean, the Knicks finished in second place at 50-32, and 8th place was the Heat at 46-36. I mean, that is like,
it's wild,
razor thin margins, basically. And because of that, Adam and I were talking about how it's really anybody's game, anybody's series outside of the Celtics. It seemed like it was very even. So maybe I shouldn't be surprised that the Knicks were sort of upset, the 2 seed versus a 6. But I still think, it's a bit of a disappointment considering where they finished. But I want your thoughts. I don't know if you view it the same way.
Yeah, I mean, I touched on this last show. The Knicks, they run a tight ship. I mean, they run a 6, maybe 7-man rotation. And I know I talked about this last show that it was going to come to an end. I mean, the these guys playing 82 games a year plus 40 plus minutes in the playoffs. I mean, you saw what happened. They broke down. I mean, if you look at Josh Hart, game 6, he had an abdomen injury. If you look at OGM and Obley, he had a hamstring injury in game 3. He didn't play. If you look at Mitchell Robertson, after game 2, he had a broken ankle. So he was out. And then you look at pretty much the second half of game 7, Jalen Brunson, he fractures his hand. I mean, that doesn't really have to go with fatigue, but still, I mean, trying to do a million things at once and you fracture your hand. So I think they just ran out of steam. And that's always been the knock on Tom Thibodeau, the coach, that he always only runs about like I said, a 7, maybe 8-man rotation. Yeah. And what happens is he runs these guys into the ground, which, again, not to repeat myself, but that's always been a knock on him because again, he doesn't like to have 2 teams because there's 5 guys men on the team. I mean on the court at once. So if you have a 2 team, you get 5 on, 5 off, do a 10-man rotation. Yeah. But this guy is only running, like I said, 7, 8. That means you're going to at least have 1 to 2 players averaging. There's 48 minutes in a game, averaging 44, 45 minutes a game, 82 games a year. Then you think about the playoffs. I mean, there was a streak that Josh Hart, he played every single minute. I want to say games 1, 2, 3, and 4 against the Pacers. And game 6, he had an abdomen injury, and he didn't even really play in game 7. So, my thoughts on that is, I mean, they had a hell of a year. I mean, they kind of surprised a lot of people. They made it 1 game further than they did last year. So, a little bit of progress here and there. But the crazy thing is, even if they would have won on Sunday, I mean, they would have got steamrolled by the Celtics because obviously Jalen Brunson with a broken hand. They don't really know about Josh Hart's abdomen injury, but I mean that's your core, running up and down the court. Yeah. And OGM and Obley, I mean, you're still out with Julius Randle. He's been out the whole year. So I think just everything caught up with them at once, and that was my thoughts. And I'm glad that they didn't go against the Celtics because, like I said, the Celtics are going to steamroll them. I mean, they would have steamrolled them.
Yeah. You mentioned something that goes into what I heard. I think it was Boomer and Gio. Somebody on the show said they were kind of complaining about the playoff format. And I don't know if you know this, I couldn't think about it, but they were saying something about, is the playoffs nowadays just a matter of, do you get the best teams basically is what they were asking, or is it really just a matter of the team who survives injuries basically? Because their gripe was that the playoffs were too long, like 4 rounds, best of 7 each round. And I was like, it made it sound like they were saying that this was new, which is not new. The playoffs in NHL, the NBA, baseball, similar. Like the playoffs have been this way for quite some time, as far as I know. But they were just asking the question, like, is it do you get the best team, or is it just a team that, as you mentioned with the Knicks, like so banged up, and is that why they lost? Like, is the regular season too long, and then you have to go through the grind of the playoffs? To me, that's exactly the point. That's what you want. You want a team to get the best seed over a long period of time. 82 games is enough to figure out who's the best, who's at the back. Like in the NHL, Rangers played 82 games. Clearly, they're the best. The Caps barely snuck in. They did just enough to get in, and then they got thrashed. So that's how it should play out, in my opinion. But in basketball, I don't know if we're getting the same thing. So I don't know. I'm curious your thoughts, if you see any kind of merit to that comment, or if it was just some kind of nonsense.
So it goes back to kind of what I just said about the rotation. I mean, everybody can say anything about injuries and fatigue and this and that, but that guy was a little right, because 2003, the NBA had the first round was best of 5. And then in 2003, they changed it to best of 7. So, I mean, that's been 21 years. So it's not recently, but what the guy's doing, I mean, he's probably just a scumbag who doesn't really know too much about sports. And he's complaining because his Knicks went out and he saw that the Knicks were the number 2 seed. The Pacers were the number 6 seed. And he probably didn't read too much into it. But, I mean, a lot of it is true what he said, because like I said, the 7-man rotation, you're gonna tire out. I mean, everybody's human. But the freak injury with Jalen Brunson fracturing his hand, I mean, half and half could have been fatigue, and it could have been just a freak injury. Yeah. Again, Julius Randle, separated shoulder. I mean, that was a freak injury. So, I mean, I get what the guy's saying, but it's not all true. It's just, I mean, look at the Celtics. The only The only guy really out for the Celtics right now is Kristaps Porzingis, but he's always injured, so you can't really think about him. I mean, look at the Mavericks, which just beat the Thunder. I mean, the Thunder were a young team; they had no injuries. Mavericks had no injuries, so it's really just freak injuries that happen, and people are going to find something to complain about.
Yeah, I think I don't read too much into it too, and you're right. I forgot that the NBA was 5 in the first round, but like you said, that was 20 years ago, so it's not like this is anything new. I don't buy that. I maybe baseball is one that could shorten the regular season because it's just double the amount of games of any other league. But the NHL and the NBA playing 82 games, I think that's good. I think that's the whole point of the regular season, is to see who's the best over a long stretch of time. You get your seedings, and then you enter the playoffs, and that's also a grind. And I think, to me, it speaks to players who are well conditioned. I mean, you can tell the guys who are healthy take care of their bodies, they eat right, they're the ones who put in the time, the work, and the effort in the off season to be able to go through a long season and playoffs. And sure, there's freak things, obviously, that happen to everybody, but I think the more often than not, the teams that end up going on deep runs and win championships are the ones that are truly the best conditioned. So to me, that's just like you said, an excuse, somebody whining, complaining, and just grasping at straw man arguments, basically. But
case in point, LeBron James. I mean, look what he does. I mean, he's been to the finals 8, 9 times. I mean, he hasn't won them all, but still, I mean, one year he went 4 straight years. So you got to think about the toll that puts on a body. 82 games plus 16 games, or at least 16 games in the playoffs, depending if games went more than 6 or 7 or 4 or 5. So, case in point, just really freak injuries are freak injuries. It's going to happen to anybody.
Yeah. Body is temple, man. That's what they say. LeBron James treats his body like a temple. Tom Brady, another one. I mean, these guys playing into their 40s because they're so well conditioned and they take care of themselves. But
so just that a little old New Yorker who thinks he knows stuff and was complaining.
Yeah. Let's go over to the West for a second. I'm a little surprised. I know you're probably a little surprised and bummed. The Thunder get bounced. I'm a little surprised that the Nuggets get bounced. So you got both 1 and 2 seeds in the West are out, and things are looking a little different than maybe I thought they were going to. I think same for you. But we got a Dallas Minnesota series that should be a good one. I'll be honest, I don't know too much about either team. I know more about Dallas, and if I had to pick a winner, I would be going with them, even though they're the 5. And that's really just because of just some names that I know. I know guys like Karl Anthony Towns. I know Rudy Gobert. Those are some of the veteran names that I just know because they've been around a while. And I also know, Towns was a number 1 pick in 2015. Anthony Edwards was the number 1 pick in 2020. So those are some household names that I know, having started to follow the sport and teams a little bit closer. But going on the other side, I mean, Dallas, there's just not too many guys I know of over there. Not saying that means a whole lot, and there could be a lot of surprises. But I'm curious your thoughts, if you got any standout players from either team that you think are going to be the difference makers.
Yeah. So first going back to that series, I mean, I obviously, I picked the Thunder beginning of the year, and I know I did say it when we were talking about that series. I said if Luka and Kyrie Irving can go off, that they might be able to chance to upset. Also, I said that the Thunder were the youngest team in NBA. I think they averaged 23.7 per se. So I think what happened is what happened. Luka and Kyrie really played well. Experience with the Mavericks really stood out. And a cool stat too is Dallas and the Mavericks and the Stars actually play in the same arena. I don't know if you realize that, but they're going to be at Madison Square Garden and kind of go on-off games with the series. So that'd be pretty cool. But when you were asking about a roster, I mean, they got a good team. I mean, like I said, Luka, Kyrie Irving, they got a really good coach, Jason Kidd. That name from New Jersey Nets.
Yep.
He's been a coach for a while now, and I mean he's got some bad deals. He was actually with Brooklyn for a couple of years, and they kind of got a raw deal. But but he's a really good coach. They have, again, Luka, Kyrie. They have Tim Hardaway Jr., who's a really good player. If he can start hitting threes, he's a great player. But the wild card I want you to look out for is a rookie out of Duke. His name is Derek Lively. Mm-hmm. He's their starting center, and he's been having really, really good playoffs. So I think he's the X factor for the Mavericks, just because, like I said, he's a center. He's a rookie, only 20 years old. So he's like a spark off the bench.
Yeah.
And yeah,
he's a big guy, 7'1", it looks like. And it says his draft rights were traded from the Thunder last summer, I guess.
Yep. Yeah, so he's a young player. And then another guy on their team is Derek Jones Jr. He's a scrappy player. He can hit some threes. He can make some dunks. He can get the crowd going. So those two guys, plus obviously Luka and Kyrie and Tim Hardaway, that guy at PJ Washington also, those guys are like the studs on the Mavericks, and they have a couple role players, but those are the four big guys. And I mean, that's going to be a good series. And you mentioned with the Timberwolves, going to the Timberwolves side, Rudy Gobert, Karl-Anthony Towns. They have Anthony, they call him the Ant-Man, Anthony Edwards. Mm-hmm. He's having a breakout year, like really killing it. And they have another guy named Jaden McDaniels. He's a small forward, so he can really shoot the ball, really can shoot the three, and he's a really good free throw shooter. But one guy that you didn't mention, Mike Conley Jr. So he played for Ohio State when they played up against Florida back in the day with Al Horford when he was on the Gators. And he played with a kid named Greg Oden. I don't know if you remember that name, but he was number 1 overall pick. They were saying that he was the second biggest bust behind, I don't know if you'll be able to get this one, but Portland Trailblazers, when they didn't draft Michael Jordan, they drafted that one guy. What's his name? You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah, I do.
I can look it up real quick. But Greg Oden was supposed to be the next big thing, and Portland drafted Greg Oden instead of Kevin Durant. So the big thing is let me see, I'm looking it up too.
Sam Bowie.
Yep. So they compared him to Sam Bowie because obviously Portland could have got Michael Jordan, but they got Sam Bowie, and Portland could have got Kevin Durant, but they got Greg Oden. And Greg Oden was a 7'3" center out of Ohio State, played with Mike Conley, obviously, but had a lot of foot injuries, and he had to retire. He only played like 4 or 5 years as a number 1 overall pick. So huge bust, but that's going to be a really good series, and it's going to have a lot of energy because obviously Timberwolves are young, and they're actually the number 1 defensive team in the NBA. I don't know if you knew that. So they're gonna play some good defense, but it's gonna be a fun series.
All right. So with that said, we'll do this with hockey too. We'll circle back before we take our break real quick. Tell me the length of each series. Who you got winning? Dallas, Minnesota, how many games? And same thing for Boston, Indy.
Oof. Minnesota in 6, Celtics in 5.
I like it.
So the Celtics actually have won first of their 2 rounds in 5, so they're actually 8-2 in the playoffs. They won 4-1 and 4-1. I just think the Celtics are too much. I mean, right now, the benefit of doing the show right now, we always say this, is there's a game going on, and they're actually up. Where's the score? Hold on, I just saw it. 94. Actually, it's a 1-point game end of the third quarter. So Boston's up 94-93, which is very surprising because Boston, their record at home was 38-4 on the home record, and Indiana just came off that 7-game series with New York, so they probably are gassed. But I still think Celtics are going to take care of it. What about you?
Well, I'm still going to go. I'm still thinking. I don't know. To me, the West is such a toss-up. I mean, you just made some pretty good arguments for both teams, especially Dallas, who I knew less about. So I'm still going Minnesota, but I'm going to go 7 because I think you made a pretty good argument for Dallas and some of their guys. So I'm going Minnesota 7. And as much as I still like Boston, I'm going to go 6. I think Pacers can steal a couple games, and we'll keep it close. So
I like it.
Before we take a break, you want to do the same for hockey real quick?
Yep. I kind of mentioned on it. Obviously, bias with the Panthers. I think that one goes 7, and I also think the Oilers and Stars go 7, and I think Oilers, Cats, and the Stanley Cup.
I like it. You're sticking with your
Hey,
predictions.
Sticking with my boys, man. I have to. I got to stick with my boys.
Yeah, I'm gonna stick with my Dallas boys, and I'm gonna, like I said at the beginning of this show, I'm trying not to be cocky. I'm trying not to think with my heart. But I think Dallas is just going to overwhelm Edmonton.
Oh man! All right, bring it. We're ready for you.
Give me Dallas in 5 in that series.
Wow, no, a lot of disrespect to my boy Connor.
I know. Rangers and Panthers, man. God, that's gonna be that's got to go 7. And you and I are in an awesome pool, a hockey pool where we do brackets and picks, and I've got the Rangers in that. But I'm gonna go Florida actually in this. I think they can pull it off. I think, like we said, it'll come down to goaltending and special teams, but I think they can do it. So I'll say Florida in 7.
Yeah, I think so too. And I think it's the second best part of the show, ice cold beer time. What do you think?
Yeah, we went pretty long. We'll save some room on the back end for. I think we want to hit on some golf, some maybe Preakness recap, and certainly some baseball. But let's take a quick break, and we'll come back in a moment and do the beer segment.
Yeah, buddy.
Awesome. If you're watching us, this is Overtime Sports Show, episode 33. We're going to take a short break. Be back in just a few.
Yep.
Listeners, have you heard the news? Overtime Sports Show is thrilled to announce our brand new partnership with Drop Hat, the premier mystery and hat accessory subscription service that's taken the hat world by storm. Every month, Drop Hat delivers amazing snapbacks, fitteds, and other types of hats from industry giants like New Era, Mitchell & Ness, 47 brand, Nike, Adidas, and many more right to your doorstep. Whether you're a fan of sports and exercise or even pop culture, there's a box just for you. Boxes start at just $39.95 and are completely customizable to each subscriber, and they're available in monthly or quarterly plans. As a reward for being a loyal listener, use promo code OTSSROCKS20 at checkout for an exclusive 20% discount off your first box. Visit thedrophat.com to subscribe and let Drop Hat style you like the legend you are.
Yep. We are back. Overtime Sports Show, episode 33, and it's time for our beer review segment.
Yes, sir.
My notes say that I went first last week. I had a double IPA. You had a gnarly coffee porter type.
From the AUG.
You got the honors this week. What do you got? You got another AUG beer for me?
No, sir. But I do have a really cool beer. So look at this. So tell me if you remember these candies.
I do. So what, like Sour Patch Kids?
No, remember the peach rings? Peach ring sour? You got them? They looked like a peach peel. Yep. This is called a peach ring sour ale from Community Beer Works out of Buffalo, New York. And what they tell you is immerse yourself in the luscious fusion of tartness and velvety sweetness. Crafted with peach puree, lactose, this beer captures the essence of gummy peach rings in a tantalizingly smooth and fruity delight. And like I said, it's a sour, and it's from Community Beer Works out of Buffalo, New York. This is I want to say 5%. No, 6.7% alcohol by volume.
That's up there. So I'm a candy guy. I like sweets and I like chocolate. You can still get those.
Yeah, you can. You can.
Okay. I don't. They were never really one of my favorites, but I do recognize them, like convenience stores and whatnot.
I loved them. They were my favorite. And I'm a big fan of peach. So when I saw this, I had to grab it. All right. So you can kind of see that color. It looks like a
swirling in flavor.
Yeah, it looks. Oh, it smells like those things too. It smells like those peach rings. It really definitely looks like a sour. I'm actually very excited for this one. So right off the rip, it smells, like I said, it smells exactly like those peach ring sour candies. So let's go ahead and give it a whirl. Whoa. That might be one of the top beers I've had.
Really?
Wow. That's hold on. I don't think I'm going to set a record here, but 8.6. That's delicious.
8.6. Wow.
That is delicious. And I mean, yeah, wow. Peach rings. I used to love those things. And they, like I said, I'm a sucker for peach, but that's tasty.
It almost, from here, it almost looks, it's got such a vivid color. It looks like you're drinking orange juice. It really does.
It does look like orange juice. Yeah. Now that you say that.
Yeah.
Wow.
Well, good stuff. I'm glad that was a good one. That's awesome. I kind of want to try that myself. So I got an interesting one here. It's kind of probably a little similar to yours, same style anyway. I've had this brewery before, Magnify.
Oh, Magnify. Yep, I've seen those before.
This is a sour. It says watermelon sugar. I like watermelon, on a hot summer day. I like the watermelon high noons that are out there, now, the seltzers and whatnot. So I figured I might as well try it in a beer. It says on the side of the can, it's a smoothie sour ale brewed with watermelon, Jolly Rancher candy, watermelon, and strawberry. So this thing is going to be like yours, packed with flavor.
I'm excited. Yeah.
Yeah. It is 5%, and it is from Fairfield, New Jersey. And again, it's by Magnified Brewing. So I'm excited to try this one as well.
So real quick, check the screen out real quick. I don't mean to interrupt your beer, but so that's what the peach rings are. Remember that?
Yep.
That's
so exactly what I was thinking.
If you look at the beer, it looks exactly like it. What of it?
Do they make them bigger, or those are smaller rings than I was thinking? But
they got all different types. But I mean, they did a really good color. Look at the color of that, and look at the color of the peach ring. I mean, they did a great job.
Yeah, so, I'll say for sure.
So keep going. Didn't mean to interrupt.
Nope, you're good. Wow, this thing coming out, I think, is going to have the most unique color, definitely, of any of the beers I've had doing this so far, and maybe even the ones you've done.
What is that? Like a reddish?
It's like a rose color. I don't even know if it's going to do justice here holding it up, but this is like the color of
the
rose, and I'm not even kidding. As I'm holding it up to the camera, I can still smell it as I'm moving the glass away. It smells exactly like a Jolly Rancher.
Oh man!
Hopefully what they said on the can. I mean, this is going to be bursting with flavor.
I got mine too.
I can't wait. This smells so good. I got to drink it. Man, that's like candy.
Mm-hmm.
That is straight up. I can't believe we just picked.
That is crazy.
2 beers that are like literally both like candy. I mean, let me get one more.
Yeah, that's crazy.
That's really good. I don't know if it'd be for everybody because it's a little pungy, a little sour, but they nailed it. I mean,
they nailed it on mine too.
Jolly Rancher. Yeah. It's and it is smooth. It does. Man, I'm a pretty big fan of that.
Can we have dueling 8.6s?
Yeah, I was just gonna say I don't know if I'd have like a million of those, but like I would get that repeatedly. Like, coming out, and just in the interest of just being fun, I'm giving it an 8.6, man.
Nice, I like it.
Exactly, I got to go 8.6.
That's awesome.
For the same reason. I mean,
they nailed it. Both of them, they nailed it. Great job by our people, our breweries. I mean, Community Beer Work and Magnify. I mean, look at that.
Out of the park.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Cheers, my dude.
Cheers to 2 really good beers.
That was awesome. Hell yeah. That's great. Wow. I can't believe we picked it. Like, that's wow. That's pretty ironic if you really think about it. That's awesome.
I usually buy the singles 4 at a time.
Yep.
We do the show on a weekly basis, so I get 4, and it'll last me a month.
Yep.
And I could have picked them in any order, and so could you, but we
Yeah.
happen to just we don't rehearse this usually, and
Yeah, that's awesome.
Luck of the draw, but that's a cool coincidence. I like that. Good
It
stuff.
really is. Very cool.
Next time we hang out, you gotta bring me one of those, and I'll bring you one of the watermelon ones. We swap.
We could probably find it at Total Wine, I'm sure.
Yeah, definitely.
Very cool.
All right. We got some time left, but we a little long. We can squeeze some things in. Before we get to baseball, I want to talk just briefly about the Preakness, and I also want to squeeze in some golf. So Preakness, we mentioned last show that it was going to be a shorter field. I really liked the 9 Imagination to get out early and maybe have a chance to go wire to wire. I know you watched the race.
Yep.
I was a little excited in the beginning because it was looking like what I talked about and sort of predicted was going to come to fruition, because the 9 was out there, but he was just kind of trying to keep pace with the eventual winner, who pretty much did go wire to wire, and it was Seize the Gray. And we didn't talk much about him. I admittedly I didn't have him winning. Just one of those ones where you handicap, you look at the stats and things like that, the past performances, and you can only bet so many, or else you're just not going to make any money. And I didn't have Seize the Gray in really any of my picks. I didn't have him to win. I didn't have him in the combinations. Maybe I should have, because he did win his last race out the week prior, 2 weeks prior. But I didn't have him. It was a good race. But, your boy Mystic Dan, I was hoping he could do it.
I did too, man.
He put up a good fight. He, came in second place, and third place was Catching Freedom, who, was one of the favorites as well. But, I said this before, and, it rings true, is that these Triple Crown races are hard. We mentioned the Derby is 20 horses. This is obviously half the amount, a lesser field. In fact, I think it was 8 because Muth was out.
Yep.
So a very, very short field, but it just goes to show you that you're talking about some of the best horses in the world. And it really is, I don't want to say it's complete luck of the draw and a crapshoot, because I do make money doing this, from time to time, and it takes studying, but it's gambling. And somebody like Seize the Gray, not saying he didn't deserve to win, but there's a reason why he went off at, I think, 9-1. So if you had him to win or in exactas, you might have made some money. But I'm sorry about your boy, Mystic Dan, and I'm sorry that I'm kind of 0 for 2 right now in my predictions. But it's hard.
Yeah, it is very hard. I mean, and also not to mention it was rainy and muddy, so that always puts into effect.
Track was a mess.
Track was a mess. But watching it, I watched the whole race again at Best Bet, and we were. I didn't put money on Seize the Gray, but I was big on Tuscan Gold. I was big on Imagination, as you told me. I was big on Just Steel, but watching it, my boy Mystic Dan, I mean, he was coming. If we had like if the race was like 30 seconds more, my boy would have caught him, because he was coming on the outside. He was coming hard. Right. Yeah, he was coming hard.
That was the one thing that I did get right, and I mentioned is that it's a shorter race.
Yep.
Not too much shorter, but that kind of stuff matters when you're talking about horses who like to run. They measure race lengths in furlongs. 8 furlongs is a mile, and there are some horses that only run 5 and 6 furlongs, and those races are like over in the blink of an eye. I mean, they get out of the gate and they're just sprinting, and before you can even look, it's over. But then there's others like the Derby, 1.25 miles. The Belmont will be coming up. It's 1.5 miles. So the race lengths do matter. And I think you're right. I think had it been a little bit longer, Mystic Dan might have had a shot to chase him down.
Yeah. Did you know that the curveball for the Belmont, they're actually doing it at Saratoga, because the Belmont is undergoing construction?
Yeah, so, it's very, very odd. I think, if I'm not mistaken, I've been told that it's going to be 3 years, actually. So it's not just this year. I think.
Oh, wow. I didn't know that. I knew it was this year.
I think it's going to be 3 years, because they're doing major renovations to Belmont. I could be wrong on that, but yeah, it's going to be interesting. There's a lot of race history in Saratoga. The Racing Hall of Fame's up there, really nice town. So I'm curious to see what kind of a crowd it brings. Belmont, not the nicest track and area. They obviously put UBS Arena over there, which I think is kind of classing up the area a little bit, and I'm sure these renovations that they do to the track will bring more people. But the fact of the matter is, I mean, that's on Long Island. There's so many people around that track that can pretty easily get to that area versus Saratoga. I mean, you're talking about upstate New York, so I'm sure people will make the trip. I don't know if it's going to quite be the same environment and atmosphere. So it's going to be interesting.
Yeah, I mean, and I heard somebody say, I'm looking it up right now, isn't it a lot smaller? I mean, capacity of 50,000. So I think the Belmont has got to be close to 100, right?
Yeah, exactly. So that, all the more reason why exactly. I don't know if it's going to be the same atmosphere. I'm sure they'll fill it, but I just don't know if it's going to be the same crowd. You might get a lot of locals. You might get a lot of people you may get people from Buffalo and Albany who commute or something like that, Syracuse, versus maybe not as many rowdy, boisterous, Long Islanders and whatnot.
Exactly. But, yep. And it's going to be interesting to see what the field is, how many horses are going to go, and it's going to be interesting.
If I had to guess, I would say it's probably going to be between 10 and 12.
Okay.
It would be my guess. I don't think it'd be any more than that because by now, the horses who haven't won, there's no shot at the Triple Crown. A horse who hasn't won the Derby or the Preakness, they're probably just going to try to save them. They don't, especially and with it being at Saratoga, not at Belmont. I don't know. That might dissuade some people. So if I had to guess, I'd guess 10 or 12. But we got. I don't know why they do this, but between the Derby and the Preakness, there's a
2
week
weeks
off. Well, 2 weeks, yeah. So
yep.
a full week.
And then the Belmont's 3 weeks, right?
Yeah, exactly. So 2 full weeks off in between, technically 3 weeks. So
June 8th, I think it's right.
Yeah, we got a little ways before they do it, but we'll definitely be we'll be talking past performances and studying, and I'll have some picks when the time comes. But it was a good race overall, I thought.
Yeah, it was fun. It was a good time. Good time.
Cool. All right, so let's squeeze in a little bit of golf, and I got to give it to you, man.
I finally got on the board.
you did get on the board. I got to give you credit for that because you beat me with Koepka, who I think was -9.
Yeah.
And I believe Cantley, my pick was -5, something like that. So you had me by a few strokes. Both of our guys that we picked made the cut. They finished.
Yep.
Your other guy, and this is where I got to give it to you a little bit, is
that's okay.
Mr. Woods didn't make the cut.
Right.
You told me, though, that I won because I said he would only make the cut 2 out of 4 times.
Yep, and I said all 4.
You said all 4. Okay. Now, I could still be wrong if he ends up making the cut.
I mean, yeah, it could be a draw. So he's got to make the last 2 cuts. He's got to go 3 out of 4. Yeah.
And then I could be wrong because if he makes the cut at the final 2, he would have made it 3 out of 4, right?
Yep.
Because this was the first time he missed.
Yep.
So, I mean, we've said it before. I think golf's better when Tiger's in it, but I guess I will say I'm not surprised, but I'll give him credit in that he's not withdrawing. A year or 2 ago, he was just falling apart, man. He looked like his body was just giving up and giving out on him. So I'll give him credit the fact that he's playing and able to at least withstand a few days. But he's just, I don't know, man. He just looks, his game looks off. And I don't know if it's just him getting older, but he's struggling out there. He had 2 triple bogeys in the second round, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, the first 3 holes.
The first round was okay.
He was only one over. He was one over, and then he had a triple on the, I think, first hole and a triple on like the 4th.
Yeah. That second round really got him. So I'm assuming he'll play the next couple majors. I hope he does, and we get to see how he performs. But it's just it certainly seems like he's falling off a bit.
And to go off of Tiger, I mean, the cool thing about him, not to cut you off again, but the cool thing about him is, and like you said, I mean, he's the first to admit the reason why he's not good is because he's rusty, and the reason why he's rusty is because he doesn't play. And he even made a comment, I want to say, that he plays all the time, but it's different playing golf with me and you than playing golf with the best players in the world. I mean, you've got to be on your A game, and he doesn't have it. So I don't know if he's going to keep doing this schedule going forward because obviously he has to play. He can't play competitive once every month and a half. So it's going to be interesting what he does.
I want to go devil's advocate for you for a minute.
Oh,
so you mentioned Tiger's reasoning is that he's got to go, toe to toe with the best of the world. There's no argument that playing golf with, I don't know who he plays with when he trains, but they're not the best of the best, and that's fine. But my thing with that is hockey, baseball, basketball, any sports, soccer, you're playing, they're team sports, obviously, and you're playing against other teams who are designed to, the other teams are going to score on your goalie. The football, the teams are going to throw touchdowns against your defense. Golf, you're playing a match with someone else, and there's a lot of the players that are best in the world on the same course as you. And yeah, you can't be blind to who's shooting a good shot. But the fact of the matter is, Tiger's not actually playing one-on-one against those guys. So, I don't know that I'm really buying that excuse from him that it's other golfers that are too good and the reason for him not playing very well, because it's an individual sport versus the others. You know what I mean? I don't know that I'm buying his excuse.
Well, yeah, I mean, I'm going to play devil advocate to your devil advocate. I mean, we play golf, and it's a finesse game. So I know what you're saying. It's not a team golf, or not a team sport. It's an individual golf sport. But, if these guys are playing 4 or 3 times a month on a competitive basis, whereas Tiger's only playing once every month and a half, maybe 2 months on a competitive basis, that's what he's saying as he's not playing. I mean, because you ramp it up for a tournament, and obviously, if you play with your guys, maybe you're going to be on a golf cart. You're not going to be walking the whole 18 holes. Yeah. So it's a finesse game. And I mean, like I said, he's not giving any excuses for himself. I'm not giving any excuses. I mean, he calls himself that too. I mean, it's different. I mean, when you play competitively once every 2 months, your shots are going to be rusty. You're not going to be finessed. You're not going to hit the 180-yard chip 4 feet from the hole. You're going to miss a 7-foot putt. You're going to miss a chip, and that's what happens. So, like I said, I mean, I know what you're saying, but I just, that's what he says, and I got to give it to him. I mean, he's admitted to it, and who knows what the future holds, because obviously he's won so many majors that he's always going to get a sponsorship exempt. So he's going to be able to go to every single major. It's just, what does he do after that? Is he just going to be a pony show? But we'll see what happens.
Yeah. We got to acknowledge lowest round ever in a major, 21 under for our boy Schauffele, who I think you had mentioned, and I had mentioned that I wanted to take him last round. Didn't I say that? I thought it
you
was
took him 2 weeks ago or 3 weeks ago.
Yeah.
You took him at the Valhalla, I think, or you took him at the RBC.
One of the two. And because I saw him playing really, really well, I think it was this past week I wanted to take him again, but I just kind of went off the board a little bit, and I thought Cantley was going to have a good showing, and he did. -5 is not bad, but -21, man. I mean, good for Schauffele. His first ever major, if I'm not mistaken.
Yes.
I already saw some pictures of him with the trophy, which, being such a hockey fan, I was a little sour about seeing him with I guess there's a lid on the trophy that you could take off, and then you could guzzle some beer or champagne out of it or something like that, just like you would the Stanley Cup. I don't know. Part of me thought that was a little cheesy, but good for him for winning his first major. The guy has certainly earned it. I mean, a heck of a round. I was a little surprised it was DeChambeau who was up there with him, right? -20 going into the last hole. Bryson was tied with him, but I guess he's on live, right, DeChambeau? So
yes,
those are, I guess, what we can come to expect in some of the majors when some of the live guys commingle with the PGA guys. And I think it makes for a good tournament. So I like the fact that the live guys are in these majors because I think it's better golf for everyone all around. But congrats and kudos to Schauffele. He's playing some really good golf. And all the craziness went down after we did our show last week. But your boy Scotty getting sent to the clink and wearing the silver bracelets for a little bit.
That's
interesting.
A little funky. I mean, that's what I'm hearing and what I'm reading. It all seems like a big misunderstanding. And I think all the charges should get dropped. I mean, obviously, Scotty Scotty seems like a stand-up guy. I mean, they talked about him the rest of the rounds. I mean, he's a Christian guy. He's whatever that means. He's a church guy. He keeps himself quiet off the course. So from what he's saying, he's got no reason to lie. He said one guy was telling him to do this, another guy was telling him to do this, and he listened to the cop that said, come on through. So what are you supposed to do? And I was talking with Eric, and he said, it could have been a mixture of a lot of things. I mean, he just had a baby, so lack of sleep. It was, 6 a.m. So, and he was probably getting rushed, and he probably didn't really know that there was some guy that got ran over. That's what the whole thing was. Somebody got ran over by a shuttle. So, and it's hard to see police lights in the dark. You don't really know what's going on, so.
Was it raining too?
It was raining also. So, I mean, it's crazy because that dude, one of the cops, like attached himself to the car and then he got dragged. And I mean, some of these charges are crazy. I mean, like second-degree assault, eluding police. There's some really important, like really crazy charges. So
to me, it seemed like a misunderstanding as well. I felt bad for Scotty for all the reasons you mentioned. I mean, especially if you're trying to do what other people are instructing you to do, like, hey, go here, do this. I could understand why he was caught off guard, and by all accounts, he doesn't seem like a guy who thinks he's holier than thou. Some people were saying, oh, Scotty's just played the athlete card. He's number one in the world, so he thinks he can do whatever he wants. He doesn't have to respect authority. I don't
buy that either. No.
At the end of all this, as crazy as it was, to me, it's encouraging. I guess as a citizen of this country and someone who has to abide by all the same rules and as anybody else, it's encouraging that to me, the justice system played out as it should. I mean, Scotty, he did something wrong, even if he didn't know it. They apprehended him. He gets booked. He gets released in a pretty reasonable amount of time. He's able to play, and it sounds like the charges are being dropped. If you ask me, that's how the justice system is supposed to work. I mean, there's no reason to charge this guy with a felony, make it more than it is. I mean, if you think about like back in the day when this country was started, I mean, true justice is, holding the people accountable for their actions, but also giving people the ability to be heard and to provide an explanation for something. And I think, that's what Scotty was able to do. I mean, like, look, it was like you said, just a misunderstanding. I didn't know who he was. I was just following directions. Like, I got spooked when he threw himself, all that kind of stuff. Like, no reason to make more out of it than really what it was. So I'm just glad that, everybody got to have a little fun with it. It sounds like Scotty was a good sport. Hopefully the officer was too, but I think justice kind of played out the way it was supposed to.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, he, made that joke. He said, I was able to stretch in a cell. I mean, that's a first. He made that quote. I mean, which is, making light of it, which it's not a funny situation, but still, I mean, you got to make the best of it. I think he also said that they served him really good food or something. I think that's what I heard him say. So
government cheese and a slice of ham, and
so he made light of it. And again, I know that he's going to make it right. Like I said, he seems like a very stand-up guy. I mean, he might have to pay a fine or may have to. I mean, he's going to make it right. No ifs, ands, or buts. He's going to make it right. So,
we'll
see what happens.
Good for him. But, what do you think? You want to squeeze in a little bit of baseball real quick before we wrap up?
Yeah. So, I want to talk about a little bit of baseball. My Yankees, I mean, they were playing really well until last night. So this was a crazy stat. So our closer, Clay Holmes, I've talked about him when we did our baseball preview. I said that the whole season was going to be riding on him. And up till last night, his stats were 18 innings pitched, 0 earned runs, 4 walks, and like 32 Ks. So we're up last night 4-1, and he comes in and blows his first game and gives up his first earned runs. And then we lose in the 9th inning 5-4. And the last time I saw tonight, we were down 6-3. So, but before that, we won, I want to say we won 9 of 11. So we've been on a pretty good streak, but it was bound to happen with Clay Holmes because, like I said, when I did the baseball preview, he's wild. He can walk a lot of guys, and if he's not on, he can easily give up 2 walks and then 4 runs. Yeah. So besides that, I mean, Aaron Judge heated up. I don't know if you've seen Aaron Judge. He won the Player of the Week last week. He had, I want to say, 6 home runs. He had 4 or 5 straight extra base hits over a 2-game span against Minnesota, and Juan Soto is doing Juan Soto things. And the pitching staff, they're the only team in baseball to have their starters pitchers go at least 6 innings, which is a very interesting stat. So, the boys that come to play, this is all without Garrett Cole, by the way.
Yeah, that's true. When's he supposed to come back? Do you know?
So yesterday he actually pitched against live hitters. And when I was doing some research before I got on, thinking maybe middle of June.
When you say live hitters, is that in the minors?
So pretty much like a bullpen session at the stadium. So like a practice.
Oh, instead of actual in a machine.
Yeah.
I gotcha.
So he's pitching to like the lineup.
He go to the minors or no?
He'll probably go there for a rehab. So he might go to, AAA, AA, maybe for a couple innings, but they're saying middle of June. And I mean, we're doing all this without Garrett Cole, and he won the Cy Young last year. So really impressive stuff. I mean, the Phillies, unfortunately, we both hate the Phillies, but they're 35-14 I'm looking at right now. And
in baseball right now, yeah.
Yeah, it's very impressive.
Differential plus 80. I mean,
yeah. Very impressive.
I want to share my screen real quick because I got something I want to pop out to you. So just real quick, I'll share another tab. I got the standings open here, and you should be able to see it. Can you add it for me?
Mm-hmm.
So one thing that stood out to me, it's your division. You guys, 33-17, great record. A lot of competition. We talked about it. Just only one team that's under 500. But if you look at all the divisions here, as I scroll down, there's always a pretty much a common theme is that as you look at the teams in the top, like the NL West, you got the Dodgers, the Padres, the positive run differential in green. And then as you go down the teams lower in the division, it starts to usually get into the negatives, right? So green on top, red on the bottom. NL Central, green on top, red on the bottom. NL East, green on top, red on the bottom. It's just, that's logical, right? The teams that have a better run differential. And in some cases, it's huge. Like, these guys are just in another league, the Braves and the Phillies, 80 and 40, whereas these guys are polar opposite. I mean, -20, -80. But that trend is pretty consistent across most divisions. Same thing here as we head into the American League, green on top. Even AL Central, almost everybody's green, which is pretty impressive, except the White Sox, who are triple digits now. But the most impressive thing, so we've gone through every division so far, except yours. And the trend was bucked in a moment, and it looked like when I refreshed, there's a game difference now. But interestingly, I guess the Rays lost tonight, but before I refreshed, they were 25-24, so they were just ahead of the Red Sox, who probably won tonight. So now that's why they switched. But the Rays, I wanted to call it out because the Rays were in the middle of the division with a -37 differential. And they were bucking that trend, if you will. And I'm just really, really surprised that they're able to play 500 ball. I mean, they're 25-25 with such an awful run differential. So I'm sure it's happened before, but to me, I mean, they're still alive. That your division's really good. That they're going to have to play above average ball. We're only a quarter way through the season, but they're going to have to play above average ball if they want to squeak into a wild card this year. But I was just, I guess, a little surprised and impressed that they've maintained a 25-25 record despite a pretty awful run differential net record. And kind of curious your thoughts if you see that often or if you're surprised as I am about that.
Yeah, so what that tells me is that they play a lot of low-scoring games, obviously. I mean, that means that they have really good pitching staff. So it means that either they're winning, 3-1 or 2-1, or they're going to get blown out. And that's why, obviously, the run differential. So
yeah. I mean, look at this. So for comparison, I mean, the Los Angeles Angels, same position, 4th in their division, but a worse record by 6 games or so, and they have a better run differential. I mean, so worse record, but better. It just speaks to
their pitching staff and their whole team as a general. I mean, like I said, either they get blown out or they win close games is what that tells me. And the crazy thing is, if you look down my Colorado Rockies, they were on a 7-game win streak. They just lost 3. So they're 7-3 in their last 10. And their differential is -73.
Yep.
And it's not as bad as the White Sox. But what I wanted to point out about them is they play some weird baseball. Either they get blown out or they win really close games in extra innings. Yeah. I want to say that they played a lot of extra inning games. And, we'll see what happens with them. Like I said, they did win 7 straight, just lost 3 straight. So they're a streaky team. I mean, I'm not losing hope on my boys yet, but we'll see what happens.
Yeah.
So
Good stuff.
yes, sir. I think that's about it. What else we got? I mean, what else? Closing arguments?
No, that's all I got, man. We're scratching the surface on baseball. But like I said, we're only a quarter way in the season, so a lot of games left, and baseball is gonna keep us going through the summer. As we start to get into football and training camps and all that kind of stuff. Once hockey and basketball wind down, but it's another good show, man. We'll be talking next week. I think more basketball and hockey. We got a little bit of a break, I think, with golf. There's probably some good tournaments coming up, but no major, I think, for a few weeks. So run it back and continue to talk what we're doing.
Yes, sir.
Awesome. Appreciate everybody listening, and we will see you on the other side.
Yeah, buddy. Peace.